Ever since India has hit terror camps in Pakistan, an entire machinery, including Pakistani government and global media houses, have dedicatedly whitewashed their terrorists and also openly shown their bias towards propaganda spread by Pakistan. Look at some of these headlines where they called terrorists in Pahalgam militants and armed gunmen. Then it was followed by Operation Sindoor, which according to the same media organizations were military strikes and also led to heavy losses for India. When Pakistan violated ceasefire, it was both the countries violating the ceasefire. Al Jazeera had to be fact-checked by both PIB and the Pakistan government when they claimed that an Indian pilot was captured by Pakistan. Let's now try to trace the history of this fake news machinery. The woman on your screens is Maliha Lodhi, Pakistan's former permanent representative to the United Nations. In 2017, she claimed to offer proof of what she called Indian brutality in Kashmir. But the photo that she showed was of a 17-year-old Palestinian girl taken in Gaza in 2014 by the name of Heidi Levine. This fake campaign was exposed by Indian diplomat Poulomi Tripathi, who showed the actual photograph of Indian Army officer Umair Fayaz killed by terrorists in Kashmir in May that year. Maliha Lodhi had to be removed from her position. Pakistan has been left embarrassed several times since then. Now jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan tweeted a 7-year-old video of police brutality in Bangladesh in 2013, claiming it to be from a quote-unquote pogrom against Muslims in Uttar Pradesh. He later deleted that tweet after a fact check by the Uttar Pradesh police. This was in response to violence in Nankana Sahib against the Sikh community in Pakistan in 2020. So just when you think that Pakistan perhaps cannot top what it has done in the past 2 weeks with fake news, that's exactly what they end up doing. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar waved a newspaper and a headline in their parliament claiming praise for the Pakistani Air Force. Let's quickly listen into what he had to say.
Obviously, हजम नहीं हुआ. उसके बाद डिप्लोमेटिक, ये मैं नहीं कह रहा, ये टेलीग्राफ क्या लिखता है? Pakistan Air Force is undisputed king of the skies. Alhamdulillah. अल्लाह ताला का बहुत शुक्र किया, गुरूर नहीं किया, तकब्बर नहीं किया, बड़ी स्टेटमेंट्स नहीं थी.
Imagine, Pakistan's foreign minister has picked up an image of the Daily Telegraph which says Pakistan Air Force, the undisputed king of the sky. Viewers, this was an AI generated image, and this time the foreign minister has not only been fact checked by PIB but by their own newspaper, the Dawn themselves. What's surprising is that foreign media in the world still rely on Pakistan for credible information. Why exactly is this case? Only their editors can explain. But we must have a larger conversation. At the face of it, this is of course funny. The first time you read it, it's funny. The second time you read it, it's funny. Eventually we laugh about it. But what we must realize is that we live today in a day and age of information warfare. Who's ahead in that race? We take that conversation forward. And with me on the broadcast, Adit Kothari, Pathikrit Payne. Joining us also is Professor Madhav Nalapat, and we have with us Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor. I want to begin this conversation with Professor Nalapat. Professor Nalapat, I want to understand from you, your perspective, when we talk about information warfare, are we doing a good enough job at countering certain narratives? Today, it's an Ishaq Dar standing in the parliament and waving an AI-generated image of an Indian newspaper where it just says Pakistan Air Force, the undisputed king of the skies. But you and I both know the sort of misinformation and disinformation, not even through doctored images, which is spread by Pakistan and on behalf of Pakistan.
Look, one thing that GHQ Islamabad, I'm told they shifted to Islamabad from Rawalpindi, cannot hide is the fact that Pakistan is in very dire economic straits. In fact, the IMF, of course, is bailing it out for the umpteenth time, and frankly, the IMF directors need to account for that for this particular loan, as well as previous outstanding loans from Pakistan, as to why this generosity, because they don't make any banking or financial sense. But I would like to say from the Pakistan GHQ point of view, it's important that the young people of Pakistan continue to believe in this myth that Pakistan is always winning, and their myth is built on a fantasy of ethnicity, that a change of faith. I mean, supposing you are from one faith, you go to a person of another faith. They are different ethnicities. They are different types of human beings. This is the foundation on which the state of Pakistan was laid. And no wonder the foundation is so shaky that the state of Pakistan itself, you saw in 71, the Bangladesh got liberated. And now Pashtunistan, you have seen what's happening in Baloch, new Balochistan. Balochistan already declared independence. The Taliban in Afghanistan already said they're standing with their Pashtun brothers rather than against the Pakistan military. I mean, they're not going to be, standing with the Pakistan military. And in fact, the Taliban supported India in its Operation Sindoor. So that's the Pashtun pride. Pashtuns are a very, very proud tradition. And Sindhis have joined the flock as well. Sindhis are also saying, we will not accept this overlordship of this army. So the army is desperate to ensure that the young people continue to flock to religious schools where extremism is taught, and continue to flock to the Pakistan military where they're treated as cannon fodder, and do not go on the streets demonstrating against the government, which frankly is what the rising prices, falling incomes, troubled economic times are basically energizing so many to do. They're terrified of a flood of this kind of protest, and so they just fill the waves with fake information. I was just talking to Arvind just now, and in several, you search in several places, and the first searches will be fake news. You have to go down the line to get real news. It's pretty terrifying. And even platforms like Wikipedia and other platforms have been filled with fake news by so-called anyone can become an editor there, and they plant all kinds of fake news. And the person against whom is being planted does not even know that he's been or she has been defamed in this manner. And AI has made it much more effective, 1,000 times more effective in terms of authenticity. And this is a constant battle. There's no doubt that India has got the technical talent, has got the ability to ensure that we navigate through this sea of disinformation and misinformation and fill it instead with information. And I'm sure we're working on that.
Absolutely. Okay, let me bring in Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor into the conversation as well. Ambassador Kapoor, your take on the same. As far as information warfare is concerned, what exactly do you think India really needs to be doing at this point in time? Because I said, right now it's just certain doctored images and doctored headlines, and one does eventually end up laughing about it. But some of the plots have been extremely sinister, especially when one looks at misinformation that was spread about an Indian jet being shot down. That's not been confirmed by the Pakistani forces. It's not been confirmed by India either. However, that news did make it to global headlines, and it had a major impact on market sentiment as well.
Well, welcome to the new age, in the sense that As Professor Nalapat has very well explained, we are in an era when AI is reigning supreme. You can, create any sort of videos. You can create any sort of documents which are totally fake. You can generate a lot of misinformation and lies, and it's not going to be easy to tackle it. But that's why even in your esteemed channel, I've been repeating that multiple layers of teams are required in India and in the all the Indian embassies and other places to deal with a lot of these aspects, because you have to keep on attacking it. You have to keep on exposing it for what it is, which is sheer lies, and you have to destroy the credibility of those sources, and you have to make the end clientele understand that it is all fake news. Because who are they trying to impress? They are trying to impress firstly the Pakistani people themselves, the Pakistani citizens. So once the Pakistani citizens themselves are told that this is a sort of absolute sheer nonsense that is being told to them by their own people, by their own authorities, by their own ministers in their own parliaments. Because the other day also the defense minister mentioned something absurd, and then when he was asked as to what is the basis of his statement, he said it's a social media. So if that is a sort of polity that is there, they are laughing stocks, but they have to be shown to be laughing stocks to the Pakistani citizens, so that they also understand that not a single word that they utter can be trusted, because it is sheer lies all the time. So once you have achieved that, then for that thing to multiply all over the world becomes a little more easier to control, because the Pakistani citizens who are going to be sending it out to all the people in the world as a first starting point, because even I received it on my WhatsApp, the same image of the Daily Telegraph, and I was quite surprised. And it was just an image, so you couldn't get into it to read it clearly or the details of it. Only the headlines were visible. But now with the analysis, it's so easy, and our diplomats also have to be, completely at the forefront of fighting this war. There are a lot of AI tools available to counter this fraudulent sort of narrative which is being built up by AI. So I guess a lot of effort will be required, and once you put in all that framework, you have to also see how to put out authentic versions which are absolutely validated, which can hold their ground, which are true. Because already we are seeing the impact of the Chinese missiles and Chinese planes, and the stock market in China is falling down. Because initially they were told that the world was being told by even Western newspapers. I still see that media narrative in the Western mainstream media, that the Chinese technology performed extremely well, and suddenly now the stock prices, the share price are falling down. So once the truth comes out, then the impact happens. So how do we ensure that Satyamev Jayate? Thank you, Devika.
Absolutely. Adit, I want to bring you into the conversation. Adit, as far as the new age is now concerned, we're already living it, we're a part of it, and we've seen also certain steps that were taken during the recent conflict, where we saw pages like PIB Fact Check become extremely active, and they really performed their duty well in terms of fact checking all sorts of complete nonsense and lies that were coming out of Pakistan and sometimes even out of India. But since there is no way really that any government has cracked so far on how to monitor the internet, is a discussion or debate on punitive action even required? Is that something that we should look at? Pages or personalities of people being tracked down, those who are posting fake news?
Absolutely. At some point, I think there needs to be a wider discourse because the fake narratives and the fake news is becoming quite a sort of endemic, and Pakistan is a sitting testimony to that. I mean, the minions of Nazis who live in Pakistan are doing exactly what the Nazis did. And Goebbels, he said that if you repeat a lie often enough, people will believe it, and that's what has become the bane for the Pakistani people at the end of the day. The lies have been repeated so many times that the people have no choice but to believe their polity and their military establishment. For them, 65 was won by them. 1971 never happened. 99, they were not involved. It was someone else. 1948, it was someone else. So, the Pakistani people actually live with this, with these lies. And Devika, if you were to meet them, if you were to understand their mindset, you will know exactly how culturally conditioned they are. There is a whole curriculum that runs in Pakistan, which is called Muttala Pakistan, where they are basically taught to hate the Hindu on the basis of the fact that they are kafirs. And this is being taught to children who are 5, 7, 9 years old at the end of the day. So, children of that age, if they are being conditioned, they are going to grow up with a strong sense of disdain, a strong sense of contempt for the other, and that is basically the foundation of Pakistan. It was built on false propaganda, and that is what it lives on and thrives on today. If you were to read the article, I know Ambassador Kapoor basically mentioned that it was a screenshot, but as a responsible politician, as a responsible deputy prime minister and foreign minister of a country, I would just look at the basic headlines. The headlines in itself will give it away. Performance is spelt as preformance. Pakistan in itself is spelt with double A's. The Telegraph is spelled incorrectly. There are so many mistakes in that particular, small little headline that, it is absolutely bizarre that, a deputy prime minister and a foreign minister, would not have picked it up, or, people who are actually advising him, would have never picked up. So, Pakistan at the end of the day is a joke of a country, and the onus should be on us to help out the Pakistani people by trying to break these false narratives and these fake news that are coming in again and again, because till we do not humiliate the Pakistani polity, till we do not humiliate the Pakistani army, the people in itself will not start questioning the credibility of the army, and they will continue to advocate and endorse, an army that propagates asymmetrical warfare in the fancy garb of terrorism. Devika.
Okay, Pathikrit, your perspective on the same as well. Militarily, we've shown that we can very easily take on Pakistan, but we live in a very different world today where that's not the only skill that matters. And we've seen, and as I mentioned earlier as well, it's not just the Pakistani state or elements within Pakistan. We do see that there is a systemic effort to present some sort of alternate facts by global media as well. So how do we counter this?
So Devika, first and foremost, in the last day, when the Operation Sindoor happened, our armed forces, performed tremendously well. Our technology performed well. The government of India did a splendid job. And I think in the recent past, the PIB has been trying to counter much of the disinformation. But even then, overall, as a country, over the last 70 years, if you look at it, we have been light years behind in the information warfare. Like, I don't care what the Pakistanis do. The problem is, where have we fallen? And we must introspect that rather than focusing on how bad Pakistanis are, because the Pakistanis are the most wretched elements. I don't actually waste time discussing them. The reason is this: no disrespect to anybody, but look at this. 1971, India won the war. Forget about what the Pakistanis think in Pakistan. You could not even convince the Bangladeshis that India has been a friend of yours. And since 1971, we won the war. We thought that Satyam Eva Jayate, truth will prevail, and the Pakistanis kept on investing in cultivating the narrative inside Bangladesh. Today, the situation is such that those who molested their women in millions, those who killed Bangladeshis in millions, they actually want to unite with them and hate India to the core. Who is responsible for it? Yes, of course, the Pakistanis. Yes, of course, the radicals are responsible. But who left the space open and void for them? We won the war and thought our job is over. Then we left the narrative to be built by somebody else. So if you can't build a narrative within Bangladesh, how would you build forget about what the Pakistanis are telling to the Pakistanis telling to the Pakistan. And please understand, fake news will never be taken off the screen. Fake news has an agenda. Fake news has a purpose. Do you think the Western media would come up and say that the Raytheon Patriot cannot work as good as S-400? No. So they have a compulsion to say that Indian defense systems could not work against the Pakistani defense systems supplied by the Americans and Chinese. There is a purpose behind it. Do you think the Americans who create this aura of invincibility, that every time something happens, the superheroes of America come and save the world? It's a different story what happens to them in Vietnam and Afghanistan. Do you think they would ever say that the Lockheed Martin radars could not work? Do you think they would say the Lockheed Martin F-16s were actually beaten and destroyed by the S-400 and Indian air defense systems? Or the SAMs? No. So what have they done, and what have the Pakistanis done? The Pakistanis have planted their journalists in every Western media house. The Pakistanis write the articles, and the Western media most faithfully carry their narrative. While Indians were happy that someday truth will prevail, I have done my job. Who is responsible? We are responsible. Because we believe too much in karma, we do not believe that we have to take it to the logical conclusion. Unfortunately, many of our journalists of Indian origin who go abroad and work with Western media houses, they prefer to keep their editorial board happy rather than taking a stand on behalf of India. So those who understand defense in West, those who are former Pentagon officials, they have been telling that Pakistani, defense systems supplied by the Americans and the Chinese are no match for the BrahMos. But look at what the journalists of those Western media of Indian origin writing there, including the article that came out in France 24 English. The problem is with us. I agree with Adit when he says that the way the Pakistanis are cultivated to hate Hindus, that is absolutely obnoxious. But what has happened in Pakistan is this: by default, by good or bad, for them Islam and love for Pakistan is the same thing. So no Pakistani journalist, even if they know that it's a blatant lie, they will never write against Pakistan in the Western media. Whereas in our country, Hindus have been completely delineated from religious education in schools. So for us, nationalism, Rashtravad, our ethos, our culture, and Sanatan Dharma doesn't matter. We need to be very good in our job and get a promotion. Our journalists go abroad and write against us. So we keep on doing the good work and never get the name. So what's the point in blaming Pakistanis? I think as a $4 trillion economy, as a major country, we should stop bothering about Pakistan and let's introspect that we have done so many good things. We have extremely good diplomats, we have extremely good technocrats, we have extremely good bureaucrats, we have extremely good media personalities, and I mean, we have some great people sitting in this panel itself. The question is, where have we faltered, or where did we think that we should not do much? That is where we must introspect. Forget about the Pakistanis.
Okay.
And I think that is where we will go to the next level if we work on that. Back to you.
All right, that's an interesting thought. Unfortunately, viewers, that's all the time that we have, but I thank all of our panelists for taking that conversation forward. This is, of course, not something that can be resolved over 25 minutes, but hopefully that leaves you with some food for thought. We take a break.